Welcome back, dear viewers, to Dungeon Crawl Stone Soup. I have refreshed myself, and am ready to continue with Billing's learned hand, the Demonspawn Hunter of Okawaru. Um, another reason why I like Okawaru, or Okawaru, or however you choose to pronounce it, um, is because it's a relatively simple god. He gives you stuff, and then if you go to your abilities, he can give you the strength of a raging fire or the swiftness of a coursing river, with heroism and finesse, respectively. You can see finesse is at a 24% failure rate. That's why we're training invocations. We'll get it to about level 6, which I think is around 10% failure rate for finesse, and that's acceptable to me. I'm not incredibly happy about it, but sometimes you have to weigh risk versus experience in these situations. Okay, I'm not really sure what's going on with all these sort of semi-ice areas. It looks like just kind of an interesting mini vault sort of thing. This is a very interesting level. I think... Ooh, I really don't like progressing without clearing a level, but sometimes you have to do that for the sake of the crawl. I am going to try and make it to the lair, right down there, and try and become more powerful there. Oh, you could see, by the way, these little shadows. There aren't actually necessarily monsters there. Those are just the last time that I saw monsters in those places, before they vanished into Fog of War. So it provides you with the last known location of monsters. So from the last time we ran away. They have moved on, however, and we made it to the lair. Excellent. Bum, bum, bum. So the lair, as I might have mentioned earlier, is kind of a known quantity. There are beasts. Here there be beasts. Oh, I should switch away from those fire arrows if I'm going to be shooting across water. It steams it up and whatnot. Especially the first few levels of the lair, you don't have to worry too much about dying. This is already a tougher than average level because we have yaks. Yaks! I'm not too worried, though. Oh, there are a lot of yaks. So we're actually going to move forward here because there's an excellent choke... Oh, no, that's not a choke point at all. That was foolish. That was very foolish. We're going to back up to this choke point right here. I would like it if there were walls here and here, because that would let me retreat all the way back, kite them back if I needed to. But wishing doesn't do you much good in this game until you find a Scroll of Acquirement, which is really cool. I hope we get one of those at some point. We're going to try meleeing for a bit. Actually, we'll go ahead and pop on some heroism. I'm not going to use finesse because, first of all, it costs a lot more piety, and we're not... In fact, I think maybe even using heroism removed our ability to use finesse. Okay, so this is kind of cool. The stench from our body when that yak gored us, that miasma, are keeping these other yaks at bay. So I can use my reach, my evocable reach, by pressing V while wielding my Spear of Venom, and spear them from afar. Yeah, you see how much I damaged those guys without having to do a single darn thing? Yeah, that yak even just died. Yeah, and we can use finesse now if we want. We don't want to. I don't want to go back down. Piety if I can help it. Yay, we got more arrows from Okawaru. Now, I don't know if his gifts... All god gifts are on a timer. There's a certain number of turns that must elapse before you can receive another gift, even if you're getting piety at an insane rate, which we're getting it pretty decently fast here. We're also regenning a bunch, so I can probably be a little less cautious with this yak. Yeah, we should be fine. 3 corpses, yeah, that's some piety right there. That's some walking around change. Oh, right, so you have to wait for the God Gift timer to elapse, and I don't know if it includes ammunition gifts on that. I know with weapons and armor, it's a significant number of turns before you before you get another god gift. Let's see how we do. Yeah, we're doing fine against the Hippogriff. Okay, cool. Okay, level 5 invocations. How are we doing on finesse? Oh, we want more than a 21% chance. Yeah, that's no good. No good at all. Yep, 2 distractions was enough to make me lose my train of thought. Something about... Oh, yes, God gifts, timing, elapsing piety, etc. It may... basically what I'm trying to say is it may kind of suck that he's giving us arrows instead of weapons and armor, but at this point I'm really not going to complain because I'm relatively low on ammunition at this point of the game. I would say that once you reach the layer, in most cases, some characters this isn't true. Some races become powerful more slowly than others. Some backgrounds are more powerful early as compared to others. But generally, by the time you reach the layer, you can handle pretty much anything the game throws at you as long as you are cautious. Like any deaths from this point out are almost invariably your fault. Every once in a while, you'll get RNG'd, random number generated, with something atrocious, like popping up out of nowhere, and there's nothing you could have done. But from this point on, it's like, really, there was something you could have done. You could have, been more cautious earlier in the level and therefore not had to blow one of your panic buttons, or you could have switched gods once you got enough gifts from Okawaru and suffer his wrath, but eventually that goes away and you have a new god and a whole bunch of shiny equipment that you got from Okawaru. That may be something we'll do much later game, assuming we get that far. We will definitely do that if we decide to make this a more than 3 rune run. I have only, as I said earlier, ascended once, and that was a 3 rune ascension. That's the minimum number of runes you have to get to the Orb of Zot. Runes, by the way, for the greenhorn, are found at the end of branches. Branches are semi-random... oh, I don't know why I butchered that. I can't eat that. I should have sacrificed it. Branches are semi-random new dungeons that branch... Well, they branch off from the main dungeon. A little self-explanatory. And you are guaranteed some of them in certain places. For example, somewhere in the layer will be either the swamps or the shoals. The swamps contain a lot of poison, a lot of rotting. The shoals contain a lot of merfolk with very powerful weapons. I hope we get the swamps. Oh crap, the spiny frog is actually super dangerous. We are in a lot of trouble here. Fortunately, he's slowed, so we can get a little bit of distance here. There we go. Good. I think we're going to go ahead and keep increasing our intelligence. We've found a couple of spell books. We may want to become powerful enough to be a full-time caster later on. That's the beauty of Crawl, is it's such a long game that there are numerous points to switch over. Oh, that, in fact, reminds me, that is the biggest thing about Ashinzari, the shackled goddess, the one that makes you identify stuff. At the highest level of piety, you can expend a ton of piety, like 2 pips worth, to shift points from one skill over to another. So you can play the whole game as a melee bruiser type, with 27, the maximum 27 levels in your maces and flails skill, and if you've been worshiping Ashinzari and get to that highest level of piety, you can just take all of that experience minus, I think it's minus 10 or 20% for the transfer. Oop, there's a basilisk. Let's get out of line of sight of him and switch to our bow, I think. Basilisks can paralyze us, which is really only dangerous if there's another monster around. Oh, Gastronok! Put everything on hold. Gastronok is really, really dangerous. He is an elephant slug, so he has monstrous amounts of health, and he is a voracious and surprisingly intelligent slug, devoted to eating anything and everyone he comes across, with a pointed hat perched rakishly atop his head. He acquired the hat the same way he acquired his intelligence and his knowledge of spells, by consuming their former owner, a powerful wizard. Yeah, he's really hard to deal with. Airstrike is a spell that he can cast, and it's a very painful spell. If we were flying, we would be dead already, maybe. But we're not, fortunately, so instead it will just kill us in 2 hits. 2 hits instead of 1. The other things aren't too bad. If he casts Swiftness on himself, he can catch up to us, even though he's a slug. He'll probably cast Slow on us. And he may use those summoned small mammals to interrupt our line of sight with arrows. Gastronok is one of the most difficult enemies you could face ever this early in the game. Later he wouldn't be such a problem, but for now, this is a pickle. This is a predicament. As you can see, the lair can be dangerous because there aren't as many cutoff points for line of sight. It's not as twisty-turny as many of the dungeon levels, barring, of course, the arena levels, like the one we saw earlier, the completely open rooms. I mean, I could try and go up this way, and then he'd have this bar of line of sight. And the worst thing about this is the first level of the lair, so there's only one staircase into it. If Gastronok follows us all the way there, we have to abandon the lair for a while. We have to keep going in the dungeon, which is a really scary prospect, because lair levels 1 through 6 are generally supposed to be a little bit more of a milk run. Our other alternative is to try and, let's see, how many other... Yeah, we can try and get to this down staircase back here, and dive down to level 2. Diving is when you head down a floor, or more floors, prior to clearing the previous floors, the previous levels. And I'm not sure what I want to do. If we could kill the guy, he's a massive, massive chunk of experience. And we might get a magical hat, too. You know, because he's wearing a magical hat. Let's see what we have available to us here. I really don't want to die this early on. I want to show you guys at least one branch. I'd love to get a rune. I'd love to complete this game, to ascend. But let's not count our slugs before they hatch in front of us unexpectedly.
A vast virus database has been updated.
Okay, our Mephitic Cloud... Ooh, our Mephitic Cloud is at 7% failure rate, and Conjure Flame is at 4. What have we been doing with our lives? Conjuration and Fire Magic. We put a few points into Poison Magic for the Cloud. The reason why I didn't put anything into Air Magic, first of all, is because Poison Magic was at a neutral aptitude instead of a -1. So that meant that we would get those points a little bit more rapidly. And also because I don't know if I want to go into Air Magic or Earth Magic yet. Earth Magic has some really cool utility spells like digging and blowing up statues and whatnot, some armor-based things, and Shatter is kind of cool. It's ultimate spell. Air Magic also has some really great utility stuff. Fire and Ice are the main damage dealers. Air and Earth are more utility. And then, like, Hexes and Charms are pure utility and translocations. Anyway, Air Magic, the ultimate spell, Tornado, is one of the best options. It's one of the best panic buttons in the game. It does damage to a large area around you and pushes all the enemies in it away. So that's a pretty strong incentive to go Air, Fire, because you can just blow everything away and then blast them with this giant firestorm. Anyway, that's kind of a moot point if we get aced by Gastronok. So... I think moving towards him is a foolish idea, so I don't think I'm going to go this route. I don't think I can stand and fight, and if I did want to fight, I would want to do it near a staircase anyway. So, we are going to try and run. He is slow until he hastes himself, so we're probably good at this point. But I'm going to keep moving one step at a time. I am not using shift direction. Shift direction stops you from moving. Shift arrow keys, not the numpad, unless you macro it. That'll move you as far as you can in a single direction until like your surroundings kind of change, or you encounter a monster. So if you're needing to move very slowly and cautiously, that's one option. I was just making sure I didn't blunder into something. By moving one step at a time and just paying attention to the chat log. That can get you into trouble if you're not careful, but I was being careful. The reason why I completely dropped out of whatever sentence I was saying, something about slow slugs, I don't know. I think we are going to dive down. I want more stuff before I fight Gastronok. I want more options. More spells, maybe. I feel an oppressive heat about me. There's a volcano on this level, which we are almost certainly not going to explore. We have no source of fire resistance. I am hesitant. I'm very hesitant to go into a volcano at one level of fire resistance. I generally prefer to have at least two, at least a 66% reduction. But we did find it. And, you know, the point of a Let's Play is to have fun. So, we'll duck our heads in. We have Arrows of Frost, and we have Heroism, and we have Finesse. So, what's the worst that can happen? We can only die, right? We are going to drop all our scrolls. First of all, the first level of the layer is nearly as safe as the second level of the layer. It's only not as safe because monsters can theoretically follow you. Oh, hey, no, we're on the second level of the layer. Never mind. Our stuff is perfectly safe here. We'll be creating a stash here anyway. We'll drop off all of those scrolls so that they don't burn when we are hit by fire. That is what happens. Oh, well. Silly, silly me. It's a mimic. Mimics disguise themselves as things. I think I might have encountered one earlier in these videos. Ouch, this is a strong mimic. This is not a good situation. Hubris! Hubris! Ugh. Well, green rats are not as threatening. But we don't have any of our scrolls, and there are a bunch of them. Wow. Oh, good. We got our regen. We should be okay at this point. Yeah, we're fine. We're fine. Everything's all cool. A little low on hit points. That's fine. We regen madly with our crazy mutations. Alright, so let's just select all with question mark. And we don't actually... No, those are level 6 spells. There's no way we can cast those. Okay, so... Mimic survived. Still don't know where the volcano is. Oh, a Komodo dragon. That sucks. At least the iguana fell to his doom. Ha ha ha. Ah, that's cool. I didn't even think about that. Normally, under normal circumstances, Komodo dragons cause sickness in you when they hit you. But because we are incredibly foul, we're just gross. We're disgusting. Instead, the Komodo dragon is sickened. Ooh, Arrows of Dispersal. Nice little panic button. Thank you, Okawaru. Making judicious use of the apostrophe key to switch between weapons. I don't know if I've pointed out, perhaps I have, but it's worth mentioning again. In the upper right-hand corner, beneath your health and magic, beneath your strength, intelligence, and dexterity, beneath where it says place, it says time. That number, the first number, is the number of turns you have taken so far this game. And the fewer turns you take, the higher your score is at the end. It's also relevant for the tournaments online. You can play Dungeon Crawl Stone Soup in your web browser. You do not need to download it, although I prefer to because it remembers your macros and such. All your different key bindings. And there are tournaments that you can play in if you are very good at this game and slightly mad. I have never attempted this myself. I've only used the browser a couple of times, and the lag, the small delay in movement, and a few of the settings are different. Just kind of put me off. So I much prefer my own downloaded version. I do not use many macros or key bindings. I have O bound to the key T. T I switched to the number 4, and I have P bound to 3, the praying button. 3 and 4 I do not have rebound anywhere else because they simply use items or spells or something, whatever is in that assigned slot, which isn't of great importance to me. So we're just going to regen a little bit and then eat this porcupine. Okay, so level 2 so far, layer level 2 is much kinder to us than a Gastronach and a whole bunch of yaks on layer level 1. Elephant slugs, as I mentioned earlier, are the big daddies of giant slugs. They hurt a lot, but they're super slow, so unless you are in otherwise dangerous circumstances, you can just kite them back. This is another reason why I really like having a polearm on my ranged characters, because it gives you that little buffer zone, and in situations like that, it's incredibly helpful to be able to damage it without having to be right next to us. We were in exactly 0 danger of being killed by that elephant slug that entire time. I think maybe we were standing next to him once or twice because we were silly, but as near a 0 chance as you get in Dungeon Crawl when you're being a little bit hasty. At some point, I will probably try to explore back up to that first floor, and ideally clear out everything except for Gastronach. And that way we'll be able to get out more or less reliably, even though the SLUGFATHER is up there. And at some point, I feel like we can kill him. I mean, he's far from invincible. I mean, he is slow until he starts casting spells, and like all monsters, he does have a limited amount of magic points. So you can wait him out. Sometimes you can outlast him. Although I don't usually recommend the get beat on until they can't beat on you anymore route. That's usually not the safest thing to do. But sometimes, they miscast, and you can get lucky with some crits and things. Ooh. Wow. Oh, dear viewers, that is one of the best things you can find as a non-pure caster. A Wand of Hasting. A reusable source of haste. Yes, we get Finesse from Okawaru. And no, I don't believe I don't believe that it stacks with Finesse. But hasting increases your movement speed. This means we can actually run away from situations that we would have had to fight out before. Anything that is the same speed as us, that doesn't also have haste, we can now run away from, as long as we have charges in this wand. We don't know how many charges it has. We're going to start training evocations again to take as much advantage of this wand as we can. Like, it'll let us identify how many charges it has, it'll increase its duration. It's just all around excellent that we found that. Okay, we're burdened, which is silly. I'm going to drop this wand for now. And let's see. one of these staircases is where we will make our stash. I think I'm going to keep exploring for a little bit before we mess with that. There's a spiny frog. Spiny frogs hurt a lot. Fortunately, we put him in a miasma, and the poison isn't quite enough to kill us, though. Ugh, they poison you a whole lot. I really want a source of resist poison soon. Primarily for the other two random branches that I was about to discuss before we ran into the SLUGFATHER. Arrows. Oh, that's why we're burdened, is because we're carrying out 8 billion different types of arrows. Okay, well, we're going to ditch those arrows of frost. Or the darts of frost. And I guess these arrows of flame, we can just use the bow of flame if we need to. We'll figure all that out once we get to our stash. There's nothing that resists fire on this level, so we'll just use the flame bow if we need to. Okay, so I don't think we even managed to get to the volcano before it closed. Oh, I don't know why I have arrows of dispersal quivered. That's wasteful. Though it might have helped us with this water moccasin a little. Again, another enemy that, prior to having a source of resist poison, is very dangerous and is trivial afterwards. Well, not entirely trivial. They can still do some damage with their bite, but not so much as to be concerned about by its lonesome. Wand of Enslavement, that's not awesome. It will stop being soon, or stop being useful very soon if it hasn't already, just because things tend to they tend to scale up in their resistance against hostile enchantments, which include like enslavement, charms, non-damaging spells are hostile enchantments. We're gonna read this scroll. Scroll of Fear. Okay. Enchant weapon 3. Well, let's enchant this bow of flame. Turned into a +1/+2 bow of flame. Awesome. We got 3 pips off of that scroll. Is that scroll of silence? Okay. So now we can grab this scroll of identify. Not that we have anything to identify at this particular moment in time. Let's see where this staircase comes up. Right next to a giant slug. Fortunately, it's not the Gastrofather. So we're not too concerned. Kill that, and the Kawaka. Eat the Kawaka. I always want to say that in an Australian accent. Okay, this is not the nearest staircase to the entrance. The nearest staircase to the entrance is actually looks like the other one that we went down. So we'll go ahead and make our stash. We'll get our stash started up here near this staircase, because I think it's the one that it'll auto track to. If not, we can tell it to do so. So what we're going to do is we're going to Control W, and that will let us assign a waypoint to the number 1 to layer 2. So when we use Shift G, which is another cool combo, to auto travel, we can just press 1 and we will go to our waypoint. We're already there, it says, helpfully. Okay, so we're gonna make our stash, and a stash is just a fancy name for dropping all your shit on the ground. Stuff on the ground, sorry, excuse me. So you can come back to it later. Things like enchantment scrolls, recharging, amnesia, although we may want to use the recharging on the hasting. We'll see. Scrolls that you don't generally need immediately, you can usually wait to enchant your weapon. You don't need it in the heat of combat. And I usually drop several identify scrolls. I used Control-Shift-D to drop a number by clicking on an item in your inventory. You can also, let's see, we'll drop 5, because 3 and 4 are reassigned and rebound, and I haven't reassigned them. You can also press D to drop, and then, let's see, I actually have to double check what, I think it's this. No. Drop. Oh, I think you just type the numbers, so like 5. Meh. I don't know. There's a way to drop just a certain number of them from that screen. I don't know it off the top of my head. It's one of the reasons why I prefer this offline version, because on the online version, as far as I can tell, you cannot use the mouse. This interface over here does not exist. And I know you can't see my mouse cursor, but none of these things would be selectable. You have to do it all through hotkeys. And that's it wouldn't take too long to learn them, but it's just a little more hassle than I want. And I'm also going to drop one of these scrolls of teleportation. The reason why I drop extras is in case we get hit by fire attacks and our scrolls catch on fire, we won't lose everything. We'll still have these in reserve. The other reason is for weight. Scrolls weigh a surprising amount. We're going to drop, we're also going to drop a ton of this food. Food weighs a bunch. We're going to keep 3 meat rations, and let's keep these couple of apples. In case we get, like, we're starving, but there's going to be a bunch of corpses that we can eat. We can eat an apple. If we get stuck somewhere without any source of food, we can eat a meat ration. Plus, we have the Amulet of the Gourmand, so we're not too worried about hunger anyway. Alright, so I dropped that regular bow, so we're going to go ahead and adjust the bow of flame to B. Yeah, okay. So that we can do our little apostrophe thing. We're up to 42 arrows, back in a good spot as far as ammunition. Hopefully we'll find more throughout the dungeon, more normal arrows, so that we can get a nice sort of near bottomless stack of them. Die, Komodo Dragon. I will sacrifice you to Okawaru. He thought our fight was really cool. Okay, let's try going back up to the top level here. I feel like we can kill Gastronach if we get in a good spot to use haste and heroism. If we can get to a spot where we can see him but have an easy way to break that line of sight so he can't airstrike us. I think airstrike might be smite targeted. It might be line of effect targeted. I don't know. In other words, I don't know if we can interpose another enemy in between him and us and avoid the wrath of that spell. I do not know. I could look it up, but that would take time away from you, dear readers. Okay, here we go. I got really scared there for a second. I thought that was Gastronach and a Basilisk. It was not. I could have died, but that was not our fate today. We're just going to poke at this giant slug a bit, get it good and poisoned, back off, it dies. Huzzah, the people rejoice. Hello, Porcupine. That actually beat us up a bit. We'll wait here until we stop regenerating. Could probably have eaten that Porcupine as well with Gourmand, but the lair is an excellent place to have an Amulet of the Gourmand. Like, you can constantly stay at max hunger. Basically, at will, you can choose which enemies to butcher and which ones to sacrifice. You get a lot of piety for... here we go. Gastronach is right next to us. This is either very good or very bad. So here's my thinking. You can see over here, there is some deep water. In theory, although he is very resistant to hostile enchantments, he can still be confused by Mephitic Cloud. I don't know if this counts as... I think this counts as a cloud spell and not an enchantment. I don't know for sure. So he's probably really resistant to it regardless. But if we manage to confuse him, and he wanders over here and falls in the water and dies, we don't have to deal with him. And I think we even get experience. At least partial experience. However, I'm not going to trust that he will stumble that far or remain confused that long. That's a really long shot. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to haste myself. You'll see that it says fast in blue. That means we're hasted. It also says contam in gray. It's short for contamination. If it's in gray, it means you're lightly contaminated, and you will suffer no ill effects from that. Um, However, if I were to haste myself again, that could increase to moderate contamination or even severe contamination, both of which have the possibility to malmutate you, to give you bad mutations that suck. Um, any haste effect aside from Trog's berserking and Okawaru's finesse cause contamination. Fun factoid. Okay, so we are hasted. We are moving faster than normal. Gastronok is slow, so he did not get to attack us in that time. So we're going to back up. See, that's one airstrike. That's a big chunk of our health. What was that? 21 damage. So we could survive 2 more of those, assuming 21 is the max damage, which that is by no means the case. Let's say we can safely take 2 more hits of airstrike. Let's switch our weapon. The thing that really concerns me is this water moccasin. I am really, really nervous that it is there. This is going to be a tough fight no matter what. I mean, you saw how much he took off with one cast of that spell. If this guy poisons us, I think we're dead. So I'm going to go ahead and read a scroll of teleportation. That means, you know, we may not be able to finish out this fight, but it also means that we can focus on this water moccasin, maybe. Maybe burn it down. Yeah. Okay, we managed to burn it down. We are going to teleport away, but looking at how much damage that arrow did to Gastronok, namely, probably a decent amount, but he has 1 billion hit points. Yeah, I'm totally okay with that teleport. An interesting, a really interesting tech that you can do. Tech is like a technical trick. You know, using the game's mechanics to do things in a certain way. Anyway, a really cool way that you can tech teleporting is if you are about to teleport, if you read another scroll of teleportation prior to the turn that the teleport would trigger, it will cancel your teleportation. This occasionally has a downside in that you can accidentally double-click a scroll of teleportation and cancel out of it, which try not to do that. But it has the upside of keeping you safe from monsters that can teleport you. There's a spell called Teleport Other. Nagas are particularly notorious for teleporting you around levels that you haven't explored yet, and landing you right in the pack of their buddies who are warming up the stew kettle. So you can read one of your scrolls of teleport to cancel the monster's teleport, and that can save your life. Still, you know, costly because you're using up a consumable. The interesting thing about Crawl is that while we've seen a lot of scrolls of Identify and Remove Curse and a decent number of scrolls of Teleport, because they are technically the most common, it is entirely possible that the random number generator could just never give us another one of those types of scrolls. Like, we could never again see a scroll of teleportation throughout the entirety of the game. That's unlikely. And technically in Pandemonium you have infinite access to items because there are an infinite number of randomly generated levels in Pandemonium. However, Pandemonium is also insanely difficult. Deadly for any character of any level. And, you know, equipment status. You can still die there via mistake. Okay. Here we have Gastronok again. I feel better about it this time. One, because we've explored even more of the level. We've run around enough that I'm confident that, you know, nothing's going to make its way over from this corner that we haven't seen completely all of in the time that we're fighting Gastronok. And I'm fairly confident that there isn't anything too bad over here. There's always the chance that, like, in your clockwise rotation around a level, there was a yak pack that was also rotating clockwise shortly behind you, and you never saw them, and so you turn around and there are yaks. That can be deadly, but I think we'll be okay. So I kind of want to try and fight him now. And after that, I'll probably cut the video, so it'll leave the viewers in suspense as to whether or not I died. Assuming, of course, I don't die. So, let's switch to the bow. Let's see what options we have. I am going to try and haste myself again. I probably should have done that before switching to the bow. But that's fine. I'm going to back up a step. Okay, it kept line of sight. That broke line of sight. That's good. Okay, now I'm going to use heroism. So you can see, like, our bow skill has been increased, our dodging skill has been increased, our fighting skill has been increased, so we even have additional hit points. We are much stronger now than we were 2 turns ago. Is there anything else that I can do that would be wise? I think I'm okay. I have the arrows of dispersal for an emergency. I have scrolls of teleportation if I need them. I have some potions of curing that can get me maybe out of a pinch. We do not want to drink the potion of flight because then the airstrike will just murder us. I could put on the amulet of Guardian Spirit, but I really want to cast some spells, and putting that on immediately drains all of your mana. It's not great for spellcasters anyway. We're more of a hybrid at this point, so I'm not too concerned with that. But okay, so I'm targeting the furthest range point of this cube. You can see it's sort of highlighted there. So, like, the center of the cloud won't reach him, but the corner will. And it might confuse him. No such luck. Well, time to start filling him with arrows. Oh, I think I was mumbling earlier about a story in a... he did not die. He's moderately wounded. He merely moved to that square, which I cannot see. So we're going to cast another Mephitic Cloud here, which coincidentally confused his summon. That's fine. Story in a Magic the Gathering anthology where it's about an elf that tries to help out a goblin and helps him out. And long story short, they end up, you know, realizing that the goblins really are little jerks, and the lesson that this wise elf learns is pity them for what they cannot know, then fill them with arrows. Because the previous policy was to just fill them with arrows. Anyway, sorry for that horrible rendition of an otherwise good story. Okay, Gastronach was not confused by either of those Mephitic Clouds, sadly. I am going to try one more, just for giggles, centered on him, so that... nope, he's just too resistant. However, wow, we are doing way better than I anticipated. I guess being in melee range is extremely deadly with him, but maybe not so from where we were. We got his hat. It's a +1 hat, not as good as our +2 helmet. Helmet has base 1 armor rating, hat has base 0, +2 is better than +1, etc., etc. We defeated the Gastronach, and I'll go ahead and end this video here, dear viewers, so that those who can't see that there will be a next video will be kept in suspense. Ah, ha, 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 ha.